Hi guys, Paul here. Hope you're all well. So today it's a lovely sunny day, as you can see, here in Yorkshire. So I thought, why not get the bike out and take it for a spin. So I'm on my Yamaha MT-09, and I thought, as I'm not able to do any kind of bike review videos at the moment, most of the dealerships are pretty much on a lockdown. They're just doing kind of servicing and repairs and so on. I thought it'd be a good opportunity to, like I said, take the bike out, but also do something a little bit different. And today I thought I'd do a vlog, basically just talking about how I got into biking and all the bikes I've owned in the past. And it's always interesting, I think, to hear people's stories. So, you know, when you're kind of at the side of the road just chilling out on your bike, and you'll get talking to other bikers, and it's always fascinating, I think, to hear how they got into biking, all the bikes that they've owned. And you tend to find, I think, with bikes and bikers, that there's always a crazy, funny, interesting story, because bikes tend to lend themselves to adventures and experiences more than, you know, you do on a car. Obviously you're open to the elements, and you can go on rides with your mates, and they're just a lot more interesting, I think. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to basically take the bike out and just have a little chat. And really what I'm hoping to see as well is to hear from all you guys and all your experiences of owning a bike, basically, and how did you get into biking, and what bikes have you owned, and have you got any funny stories. So please feel free to leave any comments on this video. I'd love to hear, like I say, all your stories. So personally then, I actually didn't have a scooter. I know some people go from a scooter to a bike. I actually had a couple of cars before I got into bikes. So before my first bike, I actually owned two cars. So the first one then was the Fiat Uno. So this particular car I had around about 1999, 2000, year 2000, something like that. I passed my test, and obviously looking for something cheap and cheerful, just as kind of like a runaround. I personally was kind of looking for mainly more like a Volkswagen Golf, something a little bit sporty like that. But at the time I was working part-time and doing a lot of night shifts, so it was probably a little bit out of my budget. But my dad actually saw an advert for this particular car, and he messaged me while I was at work and just basically said, you know, I found this car, if you want I can go and take a look at it. Now that sounds fine, but it was the middle of winter, pitch black outside, and probably not the best time to go and look at a car really. So anyway, I went and had a look at it, and he said, yeah, it looks fine, and I think it was only about £500. So I thought, you know what, I was desperate to get out on the road, and you just want a car, don't you, basically, as soon as you pass your test. So kind of bit the bullet, and I bought that car. Now, first time I went to drive it, initial impressions, it looked okay, kind of, bodywork was fine, and it looked in pretty good condition, and it started up fine. But that's when the problem started really. So on the first ride, first drive in the car, it was a nice sunny day, pretty much like today, to be honest, and it was a little bit hot, so I turned the little wheel to open the sunroof. So it's kind of like a plastic dial on the roof to get the sunroof open. So turned that round, and as I turned it, it literally fell off in my hand. And this is when I thought, oh right, okay, so this could be the sort of things to come. So I'm driving along, and the sunroof is just, you know, bouncing up and down every time I hit a bump. So anyway, managed to kind of bodge that and super glued it. But after that, it was just really one problem after another. So I had issues like where basically you could only either have the radio on or the windscreen wipers, one or the other. And at the time, you know, obviously I didn't really care if it were raining. I was just young and I rather listen to my music, so it was kind of like, you know, Snoop Dogg or put windscreen wipers on. So basically I used to mainly just have the radio on, and I even had like a little sponge in the car that I'd just kind of lean my arm out the window and just wipe the window as I went along. So pretty crazy, obviously. Wouldn't do anything like that now, but back then it's just, it was just one of those like little niggles in the car. And then later on down the line, the windscreen wipers stopped working altogether. The car started getting a lot of rust, or it had rust already, but it had even more rust by the time I got rid of it. And the driver's door, the window wouldn't wind up properly, and I remember once I just closed the door as well, and all the rubber seal on the outside of the door just came off. So yeah, it was a pretty torrid time, to be honest, owning that car. But obviously I'm talking about cars, but it is really to get onto the subject of bikes. But just a bit of backstory as to how and why I got into bikes, because the cars I owned kind of led directly into the bikes I then ended up going on to buy. Following that car then, I actually went on and bought a Ford Probe. So not the usual kind of typical car. In Britain or in England, these weren't really that popular. They were more popular in America, in all honesty. But yeah, it was actually quite cheap. So again, I was looking more for like a hatchback, something a bit more powerful than the Fiat Uno, because that was only a 1 litre. I'd had the Fiat Uno a couple of years, but I spotted this particular car, and at the price at the time, I think I got this around about 2001, 2002 time. It was about £1,800, so it was really cheap actually, and it was quite low mileage, and the car itself was an M-Reg, which I think is about a 1995, something like that. So it not even, it wasn't, you know, probably about 6-7 years old, and it was really good condition, so quite a bargain, because I think when those cars came out they were about £20,000 to £25,000, something like that. But again, similar story to the Uno really. Problems started developing. I remember I'd owned it for probably a month or two, and I decided just to have a look at the spare wheel. Lifted up the kind of mat or the carpet in the back, and there was a massive area of rust to the point where you could almost see through to the road underneath, and I didn't even notice when I bought it. So yeah, that was one issue. And then it was actually running okay for most of the time, less problems than the Uno certainly. But then I did actually take it out and go for a drive, and I was actually on my way to a work experience that I was doing at the time. It was unpaid as well, for a graphic design company, just to kind of get my foot in the door. And I was messed about with the radio, just driving along and not really paying full attention, you know, obviously still young and a bit stupid. And I actually, basically, the cars in front of me started slowing down. I didn't notice because I was just distracted and, like I said, probably fiddling with the radio or something. And before I know it, I'd kind of gone straight into the back of the car in the front of me, and that then basically shunted the car in front of that. So it was a bit of a disaster really. A couple of cars in front of me, and nobody was hurt or anything, but it then kind of caused issues because I had to pay up the insurance, and I was already paying a lot of insurance, paying a lot for the insurance anyway, and I had like repair bills mounting up for it. So all in all, I decided it wasn't really worth keeping it and fixing it up and everything. And at that point I was kind of in limbo a bit, because I wasn't really certain what to do. It's like, do I go back to getting another car when really all I can afford is more or less, it's going to be like, you know, some kind of banger. It's going to be like £500-600, probably 10-15 year old, loads of miles, loads of issues. So I had a bit of a break and I didn't really know what to do. But I remember I think it was just in like WH Smith, just browsing some magazines at the time, and looking at car magazines and so on, which I tended to buy quite a lot of. And I spotted like a bike magazine, so I just had a little flick through and having a little look at it. And I remember seeing an advert for Honda 125s, I think it was, and it immediately caught my eye because it was basically just giving the price of this brand new 125. I think it was around about 2,500, and I was like, wow, that's crazy, bearing in mind that, you know, that bike's got like a 2-year warranty. Obviously it's brand new, it's going to be covered, I think it had like a year breakdown cover, something like that. And straight away I thought, well, that's something I'm interested in. So I kind of started looking into how you do your CBT, which in the UK is basically a kind of, not test, it's more like training, really like an assessment where you spend a day doing a little bit of theory training and a practical kind of test on a bike, normally up to 125. So you can then ride a 125 usually for a period of 2 years before you progress and move up through the higher test. Now back then this was how it worked. It may be different now, but we're talking around about 2003 time. So yeah, got this bike. So the first bike I owned was this Honda XR125L, Now, it was a fantastic bike. I love the looks of it at the time. You know, it kind of had this off-road style to it. It wasn't intended for off-road, really. It wasn't kind of serious off-roading. You could probably go on a green lane with it, but the suspension wasn't set up for an off-road kind of purpose, and yeah, it was just more of a styling exercise. But the bike itself was just fantastic. It was pretty bulletproof, to be honest. I mean, I actually used to take that bike out in all weathers, so when it was absolutely freezing, snowing, torrential rain, you name it, I used to just take the bike out. I kind of had no fear back then. I just loved being out on that bike. Obviously, first time you go out on a bike when you're doing like your CBT, it's just a massive adrenaline rush, you know, to have all the kind of elements around you. You're not trapped by, you know, the steel cage of a car. You can feel the speed of the bike, and even on a 125, yeah, they're not the fastest bike in the world, but still really exciting to kind of own that for the first time. So I'd been riding that, like I said, for a while, and then I actually did my full bike test. So at the time they called it Direct Access, that's the name of it in the UK. I did that in around about 2005, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I was learning obviously on a bigger bike, just a bike I borrowed from the people who were running the course, and I think it was like an old Honda CB500, something like that, pretty ancient bike, but to feel the power of that machine compared to what I'd done before was crazy, you know, going from 125 to 500cc just for that short period of time, and that just got me even more into bikes. So yeah, definitely after that I was like, right, okay, I want a big bike now, and I'd been looking at all sorts of different bikes, really, like super sport bikes like Yamaha R6, you know, Suzuki GSX-R 600, Kawasaki, I think it was probably the 636, all sorts of different bikes, really, mainly super sport bikes, but I was getting really into it. So, but I was still on the 125, and I was saving up slowly, you know, to get a bigger bike and so on, and I'd had the 125 coming up for 2 years, so I wanted to actually get a bigger bike before I had to redo my CBT, because like I say, you had to have to kind of do that every couple of years. So anyway, I was riding along on my 125, normal route to work, and just on a kind of 30-40 mile an hour road, and I don't know what it was, but basically I just started looking towards where the curb was. Just bizarre, really, and it kind of turned into a bit of a target fixation issue, where I don't know if you've heard of that, but if you're riding a bike and you actually focus on something other than, you know, straight ahead and trying to follow the corner into the distance, if you focus onto, say, for example a curb or something like that, then your kind of brain automatically takes over and you will start riding towards that, and sometimes you don't even know that you're doing it until it's too late. And that's basically what I did. I have no idea how I ended up in that position or situation, but before I knew it, I was heading to the curb. I clipped the curb, the 125 kind of just wobbled and toppled over, and I just fell over the top of the curb. I mean, it was pretty hysterical, really. I mean, if you would have been an onlooker, you'd be probably laughing your head off, because I don't know what happened, but yeah, it looked pretty ridiculous. So anyway, I was at the side of the road, the 125 was just laying on its side, I was gutted. And as I picked the bike up, I noticed I was fine, no injuries or anything, but as I picked the bike up, I noticed that the lever was kind of all bent on the, I think it was the clutch side, and it was sort of hanging off, so it took a bit of a battering there, and the mirrors and indicators were all, I think because it kind of hit the curb, they were all hanging off. So yeah, at that point I basically couldn't ride the bike, so I got a breakdown cover, so I got the breakdown people out, they came and picked it up, took it off to Jeff Hall, which was the local bike dealer to me at the time, and yeah, it was on the back of the tow truck. And I remember going into the Jeff Hall, the dealership, and speaking to the main man himself, I think it was Jeff himself, and just basically saying, yeah, you know, I've come off this 125, and how much is it going to be to fix it up? But while I was there, I just started having a little look round and glancing at the bikes, and I actually said to him, you know, I've just passed my bike test, so my big bike test, and I'm looking at I was looking at getting a bigger bike before this happened. And he was saying, oh yeah, what were you after? So I had a little chat and said, oh yeah, well basically a Suzuki. I've been looking at the SV650, because although I was looking at the super sport bikes for a while, the SV650 was something that was more in my budget. So he had a couple actually there, so I sat on one. I thought, you know what, I like the look of this. This feels spot on. And pretty much I actually did a deal with him there and then. So he took my 125 off me and he gave me quite a good price actually, and I bought the SV650. So I had this black SV650 brand new. I'd never actually even test ridden it, so that was pretty crazy. I just sat on it in the dealership. I mean, I think I was still a bit shook up for coming off the 125, so quite, like I say, a crazy scenario really, coming off one bike and buying a bigger one. But yeah, that was the SV650, so my first big bike. And again, it's the first time I went on that bike, I mean, it was just amazing. The power of that V-twin engine. Obviously I've owned bigger engine bikes since then, but at that particular time was so memorable, you know, getting on that bike for the first time and just feeling the power of it, just fantastic. So yeah, that was the SV650, and did quite a lot of trips out on that, used it a lot of weekends. I mean, I love that bike to death. I just used to just clean it a lot as well, and that just really enjoyed that bike. It was a fantastic bike to own. Never had a problem with the bike, it ran like clockwork, it was just perfect really. The only issue, and again this is probably an error on my part, I was on my way to work and it'd been pretty frosty, so the roads were kind of frosty and icy and not the best weather really. It's kind of one of those days where you're debating whether to even go out on the bike, but I decided to go out on it. And ran along and actually hit a patch of ice, and before I know it I'd come off. I didn't, no warning really, the just back wheel went and that was it, the back tyre gone, and I was picking the bike up, but again it was only minor damage, so just cosmetic really. I managed to get it fixed up and I was fine. But yeah, so that was the SV650. Now, because I love that bike so much, I then basically progressed onto an SV650 Sport. So it was like a silver grey bike. I had that for a couple of years as well. So this was around about 2007 when I owned this bike. Again, did quite a few trips. I didn't actually fall off this one, so that was pretty good. I just bought it because I love the SV650, but I just thought the styling of the Sport version was a little bit better. And again, I used to do a lot of obsessive kind of cleaning on that bike. Used to be always washing it and getting it looking nice and shiny and doing a lot of eyes basically. So yeah, that was the SV650 Sport. Just a brilliant bike again, just so good when you're first getting into bikes and you want like your first big bike. The SV650 is a fantastic bike. I mean, the tyres that the bikes come with as standard are pretty rubbish to be fair, but you know, the actual bike itself is awesome. So that was the SV650 Sport. And then around about 2009 I think it was, I were looking at bikes and, you know, getting into different kind of bikes. I'd owned obviously two V-twins, so I was looking for something a bit different, and that's when I basically went for this Yamaha XJ6. So this was the naked version of the bike. I think the third version was called a Diversion. So we got the XJ6N, and it was again a nice little bike. It had better brakes than the Suzuki, better tyres, so it handled better, but the engine was just a bit gutless. So it was a 4-cylinder as opposed to the V-twin, and it was just a bit boring to ride. I don't know, it was just nothing really, kind of no instant acceleration. There was a lot of power, but you had to be really high up in the rev range. There was very little bottom end or low mid end engine torque, so all the power was really high up in the rev range, which kind of makes sense because it's more or less a detuned R6. But I don't know, I just thought it was going to be a more exciting bike to ride than it was, and I kind of soon regretted getting rid of the SV650. So I did a few trips on it though. I went out, you know, to the Lake District, a few trips over the UK, and I did enjoy the bike, but I just preferred the SV650. So that was the Yamaha XJ6, and I had that about 3 years I think, and then my next bike was the Triumph Street Triple. So absolutely awesome bike. So I got that in 2012, and again got it from brand new. The handling was spot on, and it's just difficult to fault the bike. And I actually thought when I owned that bike that I'd probably never get another bike. It was that good. I'd probably just, you know, upgrade to the next Street Triple as and when it came out. And again, I did quite a few rides. I remember going to the Lake District again with a mate on that bike, and it was absolutely chucking it down. It's torrential rain all the way there. That took about 3 or 4 hours or whatever, and it was awful. But you know, again, it's just something that kind of is part of owning a bike, and it leads to obviously doing leads to stories like this and experiences and just things that you just don't get in a car, you know, riding all that way with your mates to the Lake District, and by the time you get there you're soaked. But I remember also the sun coming out close to where we were staying, and the roads, just as the sun came out, the roads were fantastic, and you know, finally got to go through some of these like nice twisty roads on the bike, and that was fantastic. So yeah, that was the Triumph Street Triple, and I was actually at a dealership just looking around at bikes again, and I'd seen in the press pictures of this bike, the Yamaha MT-09, and that they'd done a bit of a restyle on it, and I was talking to the guy at the dealership, and he was asking what bike I'd got at the time, and obviously I mentioned the Triumph, and he had a look at it, because I said, well, actually, just out of interest, what would I get if, you know, I would kind of part exchange this one for an MT-09, because I've heard good things about the MT-09, and he offered a good price. So I actually took it out for a test ride. I had no intention at that time or that particular day of buying a bike. I was in the dealership. I think I'd taken my bike in for a service or something like that, I can't remember, but I didn't really have any intention of buying a bike. But you know, an hour or two later I came back from the test ride and I thought, wow, that bike is incredible. I mean, to me the MT-09 is basically like a hooligan version of the Street Triple. It's got so much power, so much torque. I remember on the test ride I was just setting off from some traffic lights. I think it was in A mode, so I had no idea about the modes or anything like that, and I just, you know, I wasn't even going crazy. I just twisted the throttle to set off, and the next thing, the front wheels popping up, and that was like a real eye opener. I thought, wow. So yeah, that bike, well, this bike, so it's incredible, and it was the only bike that could kind of tempt me away from the Street Triple, because it's got the performance. I mean, handling wise, maybe the Triumph is a little bit better in terms of suspension and so on, but it's just not as exciting in my opinion to ride as this bike. This bike is just unbelievably exciting. So yeah, and that's where I'm basically at now. So got the Yamaha MT-09, and this bike also actually led into me doing YouTube videos and vlogs. I picked up this bike not long after they first came out, in all honesty. It had only just come into the dealership when I did the test ride. That was the first demo model they had, so I did the test ride, and then I decided to put the deposit down. Like I said, I got a good offer on my Triumph, so I put a deposit down, got this brand new, and pretty much the first day, if you look back over my channel, you'll see the video. So I did a video where I actually took this bike out into Peak District like I'm doing today, and just basically did a few minute video just talking about the bike, and then I followed that up about a month later with a review of the bike and going into a lot more detail on the bike, and that was kind of my first bike review really, and ever since I've just been doing videos. So that bike was fantastic because it was a new bike and there was a lot of interest in it, and because I was doing videos on it, those videos were getting quite popular, and it just led me into doing the YouTube videos that I'm doing now. So got a lot to thank this bike for. Not only is it an amazing bike, but it's also got me into YouTube, and I just love doing, like I said, the bike videos. No matter how many views they get, it's just something I enjoy doing. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and you've heard me obviously prattle on about the bikes I've owned and so on, and it's been of interest to you. Like I said, I would love to hear what bikes you guys have owned and any stories you've got. If you've obviously got any comments or questions, then ask away. I'll be posting more videos soon on the Yamaha MT-09. I try and do a kind of range of videos on my channel, so from bike reviews, product reviews, to bike kit, and obviously when events start happening I'll be going to the stunt shows and racing events and so on. But yeah, hopefully, like I say, you've found it interesting. If you appreciate the video, then give it a like, and please subscribe to my channel, and we'll be putting some more videos out soon. Okay guys, thank you.